She cheated with her billionaire boss. Want a divorce. I agreed without a fight. Big mistake on her part. While she was busy with him, I discovered what she'd really been hiding. Then I met his wife. At his party, I told him, "Your wife is remarkable," while he shook with rage. The real game was just beginning. My name is Garrett Chambers. I'm 43 years old, and 3 weeks ago, I discovered my wife has been sleeping with her boss for the past 6 months. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I did what writers do. I observed. I documented. I planned. The restaurant she chose was one of those places where the lighting costs more than the food. Soft amber glows, white tablecloths, candles and glass hurricanes. Tessa always picked places like this when she had something important to say. Usually something she knew I wouldn't like. "You've been quiet tonight," she said, her fingers dancing around her wine glass without lifting it. She was nervous. That told me everything. "Just thinking," I said, cutting into my steak. "Long day. Garrett, we need to talk." There it was. The sentence that changes everything. I set down my fork and looked at her. Really looked at her. Tessa was 40, still beautiful in that effortless way that made other women study her like a puzzle. But tonight, something was different. Something guilty. "I'm listening," I said. She took a breath. "I've been seeing someone. From work. It's Trevor. Trevor Ashford. Trevor Ashford. Publisher of Ashford House, the literary empire where Tessa worked as senior editor. 47 years old. Married to some museum curator. Worth maybe 200 million. The kind of man who wore success like cologne. I should have felt panic. Anger. That hot rush of adrenaline. Instead, I felt calm. Eerily calm. Because I already knew. I'd known for 3 weeks and 4 days. Ever since I came home early and found her laptop open on the kitchen counter. Messages from T glowing on the screen. "How long?" I asked. "Does it matter?" "Yes." She flinched. 6 months. 6 months of lies. 6 months of kissing me goodbye while thinking of him. 6 months of our kids, Dylan and Sophie, having dinner with a mother who was living a double life. "Are you in love with him?" I asked. Her face did something complicated. "I don't know what I feel anymore. When I'm with him, I feel alive. Like I matter. And with me. With you, I feel like your research assistant. Like the person who pays the bills while you chase your dreams." She paused. "I want a divorce, Garrett." There it was. Nuclear option, deliver between the entree and dessert. "Okay," I said. Her eyes widened. "Okay, that's it. What do you want me to do, Tessa? Beg? You've clearly made up your mind." I signaled for the check. $347 for the meal that ended my marriage. We drove home in silence. When we pulled in the driveway, she turned to me. "I'll stay at my sister's tonight. Probably for the best." After she left, I sat in my study and pulled out my phone. I opened the private folder where I'd been collecting evidence for 3 weeks. Screenshots of messages. Credit card statements showing hotel charges. Calendar entries that didn't match her supposed work schedule. I'd been preparing for war. I just hadn't known what kind. The law offices of Patterson and Associates occupied the 15th floor of a building in downtown Manhattan. My lawyer, David Patterson, had handled my contracts for years. When I called him the morning after Tessa's confession, he cleared his schedule immediately. "Garrett," he said, sliding a folder across his mahogany desk. "I've drawn up a preliminary assessment. Given that New York is an equitable distribution state, and there's no prenup, this could get complicated." I opened the folder. Numbers swam across the page. Our house in Westchester. Savings accounts. My royalties from 3 published novels. Tessa's stock options from Ashford House. 17 years of marriage reduced to spreadsheets. "How vindictive do you want to be?" David asked, steepling his fingers. "I want what's fair," I said. "But I also want to understand who I'm dealing with." "Trevor Ashford. What do you know about him?" David pulled up something on his computer. "Publisher, philanthropist. Married to Catherine Ashford for 21 years. She's the former chief curator at the Museum of Modern Art. Gave up her career when his company went public." He paused. "Word is, Ashford's had affairs before. Multiple. He's careful, but not careful enough." "Does his wife know?" "Hard to say. She maintains a very controlled public image. But there are rumors." I leaned back in my chair, thinking, what if I told you I wanted to meet her? David raised an eyebrow. "Catherine Ashford. Just a conversation. 2 people whose spouses are involved. Nothing inappropriate." "Garrett, that's playing with fire." "Maybe. Or maybe it's leveling the playing field. After the meeting, I went home to find Dylan, my 15-year-old son, sitting at the kitchen counter with his laptop. He looked up when I walked in, his expression guarded. "Mom called," he said. His voice was flat. "She wants to have dinner with us this weekend." Talk about the transition. I pour myself coffee. "What did you tell her?" "That I'd think about it." He paused. "Dad, I know what's going on. I'm not stupid." I sat down across from him. "How much do you know?" "Enough. I've heard you and Mom arguing late at night. I've seen the way she acts when her phone rings. And yesterday, I found something on her iPad." He turned his laptop toward me. On the screen was a messaging app one didn't recognize. She didn't log out. I saw messages between her and someone called T. They're not exactly subtle. My chest tightened. "Dylan, I'm sorry you had to see that. Are you guys getting divorced?" "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Good. She doesn't deserve you." His jaw clenched. "Or us." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what David had said. Catherine Ashford, former curator, gave up her career for her husband's success, living in the shadow of a man who collected affairs like other people collected art. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. It took me 3 searches to find her account. Private, but with a profile picture that showed a woman with dark hair and intelligent eyes, standing in front of a Rothko painting. Her bio read, "Former curator, current observer, always seeking beauty in unexpected places." I sent a follow request. Then I opened her public Facebook page. Recent posts about art exhibitions. A check-in at a gallery in Chelsea from 2 days ago. A shared article about the importance of preserving cultural institutions. A woman who'd lost herself in someone else's ambition. Just like I'd almost lost myself in Tessa's shadow. My phone buzzed. A notification. Catherine Ashford had accepted my follow request. I smiled. The game had begun. The Chelsea Art Gallery opening was one of those events where people pretended to understand modern art while networking and drinking expensive wine. I'd found it through Catherine Ashford's Instagram. She posted about an emerging artists exhibition opening Thursday night. I arrived at 7, dressed in dark jeans and a blazer. The gallery was all white walls and track lighting, filled with abstract paintings that probably meant something profound to someone. I took a glass of wine from a passing server and scanned the room. Catherine stood in front of a large canvas, her dark hair pulled back, wearing a navy dress that was elegant without trying too hard. She was alone, studying the painting with the kind of focus that suggested she actually cared about the art, not the social performance. I walked over and stood beside her, looking at the painting. Layers of blue and gray, like storm clouds breaking over water. "What do you see?" I asked. She turned, slightly startled, then smiled. A real smile, not the practice kind. "Honestly, I see someone try to capture the moment before everything falls apart. That tension right before the storm breaks. That's specific. I used to be a curator. Specificity was my job." She extended her hand. "Catherine Ashford." "Garrett Chambers." I shook her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. "I'm a writer. I follow you on Instagram. Your posts about art are actually insightful, not just the usual pretentious gallery talk." She laughed. "That's a low bar, but thank you." She gestured at the painting. "Are you here for the art or the networking?" "The art. I'm working on a novel about an artist, trying to understand how people see the world differently." It wasn't entirely a lie. I'd been researching art for a subplot. "What kind of novel?" "Literary fiction. About a man who realizes he's been living someone else's version of his life. He has to figure out who he actually is underneath all the expectations." Catherine's expression shifted. Something knowing and sad. "That sounds like a story worth telling." We spent the next hour walking through the gallery, discussing the pieces. Catherine had a way of explaining art that made it accessible without dumbing it down. She talked about negative space, about what artists chose not to show being as important as what they revealed. "I miss this," she said quietly, standing in front of a sculpture made of twisted metal. "Curating, building exhibitions, having conversations about meaning instead of just managing social calendars and charity galas." "Why did you stop?" "My husband's company went public. Suddenly, I needed to be a certain kind of wife. The kind who hosts dinners and sits on boards and makes him look good in magazines." She paused. "The kind who doesn't have her own career that might overshadow his." "That sounds lonely." She looked at me, really looked at me. "It is." My phone buzzed. A text from Tessa. We need to talk about the house. And the kids. Can you meet tomorrow? I silenced it. I'm sorry, I said to Catherine. Where were we? Talking about loneliness, she said. Though I think we were both being too polite to call it what it is. What is it? Surrender. We gave up pieces of ourselves to make other people comfortable, and now we're not sure how to get those pieces back. The honesty was startling. Beautiful, even. Can I buy you coffee? I asked. There's a place around the corner. We can continue this conversation somewhere without quite so many people pretending to understand abstract expressionism. Catherine smiled. I'd like that. As we left the gallery together, I felt something shift. This wasn't just reconnaissance anymore. This was connection. The coffee shop was small and dark, the kind of place where conversations felt private even when you were surrounded by strangers. Catherine ordered an espresso. I got a black coffee. We sat in a corner booth, and the pretense of the gallery fell away. I should tell you something, I said. I didn't find that gallery opening by accident. I followed you on Instagram because I wanted to meet you. Catherine's expression didn't change. I know. You know, Garrett, I'm not naive. A writer I've never heard of suddenly follows me, shows up at a gallery I posted about, and just happens to be charming and insightful. She sipped her espresso. I looked you up while you were getting our drinks. 3 published novels, moderate success, and married to Tessa Chambers, senior editor at Ashford House. My husband's company. My chest tightened. I can explain. Please do. I took a breath. 3 weeks ago, I discovered my wife has been having an affair with your husband. She told me 4 days ago that she wants a divorce. I spent those 3 weeks trying to understand who I was dealing with, and that led me to you. Catherine set down her cup carefully. Her hands were steady, but I could see the tension in her jaw. How long has it been going on? 6 months, according to Tessa. 6 months. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's actually longer than most of Trevor's affairs usually last. You must really like her. You knew. I've known about Trevor's infidelity for years. Not always the specific women, but the pattern. Late nights at the office. Unexplained charges on credit cards he thought I didn't monitor. Lipstick on collars. Perfume that wasn't mine. She looked directly at me. I hired a private investigator 8 months ago. He's documented 4 different women Trevor's been involved with in the past 2 years, including your wife. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. 4. Trevor collects beautiful, ambitious women the way other men collect cars. He makes them feel special, powerful, like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And then he moves on when someone younger or more exciting comes along. Catherine's voice was clinical, detached. Tessa's just his current acquisition. Why did you stay? Because leaving meant admitting I'd wasted 21 years on a man who never saw me as anything more than a trophy. Because I have a daughter who's 15, and I wanted to protect her from the truth about her father. Because I convinced myself that financial security was worth the loneliness. She paused, but mostly because I was afraid. Afraid I'd given up so much of myself for him that there wouldn't be anything left if I walked away. I reached across the table and took her hand. She didn't pull away. Catherine, I came here tonight thinking I was going to use you. Get information about Trevor. Maybe make him uncomfortable by befriending his wife. Strategic revenge for what he and Tessa did to my family. And now I'm realizing you're not a strategy. You're a person who deserves better than what you've been given. She squeezed my hand. So are you, Garrett. We sat there in that small coffee shop, 2 people who'd been betrayed by the same 2 people, finding something unexpected in each other. Not love. Not yet. But understanding. Recognition. The knowledge that we weren't alone in this. I want to see him lose everything, Catherine said quietly. Not just his reputation or his money. I want Trevor to understand what it feels like to be erased by someone you trusted. Then let's help each other, I said. No more secrets. No more pretending. We build our cases together, support each other through the divorces, and make sure they both understand exactly what they've thrown away. Catherine nodded. Partners. Partners. We exchanged numbers. Real contact information, not just Instagram handles. As we left the coffee shop, Catherine turned to me. Thank you for being honest with me tonight, even about your initial intentions. Thank you for not walking away when you figured out who I was. Garrett, I stopped walking away from hard truths when I hired that private investigator. I'm done running. I watched her get into a car and drive away, and I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Dylan was waiting for me when I got home from meeting Catherine. He sat at the kitchen counter, his laptop open, looking like he had something to say. "Dad, we need to talk," he said. I poured myself water and sat across from him. "What's on your mind?" He turned his laptop toward me. On the screen was a folder labeled Evidence. Inside were dozens of audio files, each labeled with dates spanning the past 14 months. "What is this?" I asked. "Recordings of Mom on her phone calls, talking to Trevor, talking to her friend about Trevor, planning when they'd meet up." His voice was steady, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. "I started recording about a year ago. I knew something was wrong. The way she'd light up when her phone rang, the way she'd leave rooms to take calls, how she started dressing differently. So I set up an app on her iPad that records when certain keywords are mentioned." My stomach dropped. "Dylan, that's illegal?" "Maybe, but it's also proof. 47 hours of recordings. Mom talking about how Trevor makes her feel alive, how she's planning to leave you once she gets a better settlement, how she's been hiding money in a separate account for 3 years, getting ready. 3 years. She'd been planning this for 3 years. There's more," Dylan continued, his voice harder now. "I found bank statements. Mom's been transferring money from a joint account to a private one. Small amounts, a few hundred here and there, but it adds up. She's moved almost $95,000 over the past 2.5 years. The betrayal kept getting deeper. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I kept hoping I was wrong, that there was some explanation. But then she came home that night and told you she wanted a divorce, and I realized I'd been protecting her when I should have been protecting you." He closed the laptop. "I'm done protecting her, Dad. She doesn't deserve it." I stood up and walked around the counter, pulling my son into a hug. He was almost as tall as me now, 15 going on 30. "Thank you for telling me this. But Dylan, I don't want you carrying this burden. This is between your mother and me." "No, it's not," Dylan said, pulling back. "She made it about all of us when she decided to blow up our family. Sophie's 8 years old, Dad. She doesn't understand why Mom's not home. She cried herself to sleep last night, asking if it's her fault. That hit me like a punch. Where's Sophie now?" "At Emma's birthday party down the street. I told her you'd pick her up at 7. He paused. "Dad, there's something else. Something I found in Mom's medical records on her insurance portal." "What?" "She had 3 procedures at a women's clinic over the past 6 years. The records call them pregnancy terminations. Mom had 3 abortions and never told you." The room tilted. 3 abortions. 3 pregnancies she'd ended without my knowledge. Were they mine? Trevor's? Someone else's? "Dylan, I'm so sorry you had to see all of this." "I'm not sorry. I'm angry." His jaw clenched. "She lied to us for years, Dad. She stole from us. She ended pregnancies without telling you. She doesn't get to play victim now." My phone buzzed. A text from Tessa. "Can we talk about custody arrangements? I want the kids on weekends." I showed Dylan the message. "What do you think?" "I think she can go to hell," he said flatly. "I'm not spending weekends watching her play house with Trevor. Neither is Sophie. You know I can't keep you from her. The court will mandate visitation. I'm 15. Courts listen to teenagers about custody preferences. And Sophie won't go anywhere without me." He looked at me directly. "We're staying with you, Dad. Both of us. Mom made her choice. We're making ours." Later that evening, I called Catherine. She answered on the second ring. "Garrett." Her voice was warm. "I need to tell you something. My son has been recording Tessa's phone conversations for over a year. He has 47 hours of evidence, including discussions about her affair with Trevor, plans to maximize her divorce settlement, and proof that she's been hiding money." Silence. Then, "That's significant evidence. There's more. Medical records show she had 3 abortions during our marriage without my knowledge." Catherine's breath caught. "Garrett, I'm so sorry. The question is, what do we do with all this information? I don't want to weaponize my son's pain, but I also can't let Tessa and Trevor walk away from this without consequences. My private investigator has evidence of Trevor's affairs going back 5 years. Financial records showing he's been using company funds to pay for hotels, gifts, travel for his mistresses. That's embezzlement." Catherine paused. "If we coordinate our evidence, if we build cases together, we can make sure they both face real consequences. Not just a divorce court. Potentially criminal charges for Trevor. You're talking about destroying his company. I'm talking about justice. Trevor's board of directors includes my father and 2 of his business partners. If they knew he was embezzling company funds for personal affairs, they'd remove him immediately. The shareholders would demand it. I thought about Dylan, about Sophie crying herself to sleep, about 3 years of systematic deception, about pregnancies ended in secret. Let's do it, I said. Let's show them both what consequences actually look like. Partners, Catherine said. Partners. The mediation session was scheduled for Tuesday morning. I sat across from Tessa and her lawyer, Patricia Winters, in a conference room that smelled like expensive furniture polish and broken dreams. Thank you for coming. The mediator, Susan Reynolds, began. Today we'll discuss initial custody arrangements and temporary financial support. Patricia opened a folder. My client is requesting primary physical custody of both children, with Mr. Chambers receiving standard visitation. Additionally, she's requesting temporary spousal support of $8,000 monthly and continued residence in the marital home. I didn't react. David Patterson, my attorney, had prepared me for this. Mr. Chambers? Susan asked. I'm requesting primary physical custody, I said, looking directly at Tessa. Both children have expressed their preference to live with me. Dylan is 15, old enough for his opinion to carry significant weight. Sophie is 8 and doesn't want to be separated from her brother. Tessa's face flushed. That's not fair, Garrett. You've been turning them against me. I haven't said a word against you to our children. But they're not blind. Tessa, they see what's happening. This is ridiculous. Patricia interjected. Mrs. Chambers has been the primary caregiver throughout the marriage. She's entitled to custody. Was she the primary caregiver? David asked mildly. Or was Mr. Chambers, who worked from home while Mrs. Chambers worked 60-hour weeks at the office? He slid a document across the table. School records showing Mr. Chambers attended 93% of parent-teacher conferences. Medical records showing he took the children to 87% of doctor appointments. Mrs. Chambers was building her career. Mr. Chambers was raising their children. Tessa's lawyer scanned the documents, her expression tightening. Furthermore, David continued, we have evidence that Mrs. Chambers has been systematically transferring marital funds to a private account without Mr. Chambers' knowledge. $95,000 over 2.5 years. We're prepared to file a motion for return of those funds plus penalties. The color drained from Tessa's face. How did you? It doesn't matter how we know, I said. What matters is that you've been planning this divorce for years while pretending everything was fine. You've been stealing from our family to fund your exit strategy. That money was for emergencies, Tessa said weakly. Was Trevor Ashford an emergency? David asked. Because we also have evidence that a significant portion of those funds were spent on gifts, travel, and accommodations related to your extramarital affair. Patricia held up a hand. We need a recess. I need to consult with my client. Take all the time you need, David said. In the hallway, David turned to me. That went well. Her attorney wasn't expecting us to have financial documentation. What happens now? They'll regroup. Probably try to negotiate a better settlement rather than have all of this come out in court. The hidden accounts, the affair, the systematic deception. None of it looks good for her. My phone buzzed. A text from Dylan. How's it going? I replied, good. She's rattled. Another text came through. This one from Catherine. Trevor just got a letter from his board requesting an emergency meeting. My father made sure they received copies of the expense reports showing company funds used for personal purposes. He's panicking. I smiled. The pieces were falling into place. 15 minutes later, we reconvened. Tessa looked like she'd been crying. Patricia's expression was tight. My client is willing to agree to joint physical custody, Patricia said. 50-50 split. She'll withdraw her request for spousal support in exchange for Mr. Chambers not pursuing the matter of the separate account. No, I said. Everyone looked at me. Garrett, David started. No. I repeated, looking at Tessa. You don't get to steal from our family, lie to our children, destroy our marriage, and then negotiate like this as a business transaction. I want primary custody. The kids stay with me during the school week. You get alternating weekends. And you're returning every dollar you took from that joint account. Or I'm filing criminal charges for theft. You can't do that, Tessa said, her voice breaking. Watch me. I've been accommodating our entire marriage. Tessa, I made myself smaller so you could shine brighter. I supported your career while raising our children. I forgave 1,000 small betrayals because I thought we were building something together. I stood up. But I'm done being accommodating. You made your choice. Now live with the consequences. I walked out of the mediation, David hurrying to catch up with me. Garrett, that was risky. I know. But I'm tired of playing defense. It's time to show her who she's actually dealing with. Trevor Ashford's emergency board meeting happened 3 days after our mediation. Catherine called me that evening, her voice electric with satisfaction. It's done, she said. The board voted to suspend Trevor pending a full financial audit. My father presented evidence of over $340,000 in company funds used for personal expenses. Hotels, jewelry, travel, all for his affairs. $340,000. I whistled. That's more than I expected. Trevor's been doing this for years. He thought he was untouchable. Catherine paused. The board also discovered he gave Tessa a promotion last year that came with stock options worth about $200,000. The timing coincided with the start of their affair. That's a conflict of interest violation. Can they take the options back? They're reviewing all compensation decisions Trevor made without proper board approval. Tessa's promotion is at the top of the list. Catherine's voice softened. How are you doing? I know this is a lot. I'm managing. Dylan and Sophie are my priority right now. Dylan's angry, which I understand. Sophie just wants things to go back to normal, which breaks my heart because I can't give her that. I'd like to meet them, if you're comfortable with that. The suggestion surprised me. You want to meet my kids? I want to know the people who matter to you, but only if you think they're ready. I thought about it. Dylan knew about Catherine, knew I'd been meeting with Trevor's wife to coordinate our divorces. Sophie didn't know the details yet, just that mommy and daddy were separating. Let me talk to Dylan first, I said. See how he feels about it. That night, I found Dylan in his room, headphones on, working on homework. He pulled them off when I knocked. What's up, Dad? Catherine Ashford wants to meet you and Sophie. I wanted to see how you felt about that. Dylan set down his pencil. Trevor's wife? The one helping you with the divorce. Yes. We've been coordinating our evidence, supporting each other through the process. She's become a friend. Just a friend. I sat on the edge of his bed. Honestly, I don't know what she is yet. We're both going through divorces. We're both trying to figure out who we are outside of our marriages. But yes, she matters to me. Dylan nodded slowly. Does she make you happy? She makes me feel like I'm not alone in this. Like someone actually sees me. Then I'll meet her. But Dad, if she hurts you, I'm going to be pissed. I laughed. Fair enough. 2 days later, Catherine came to the house for dinner. I told Sophie we had a friend visiting. Nothing more. She was too young for the complications. Catherine arrived at 6, carrying a bag from a local bakery. I brought dessert, she said. I didn't know what kids liked, so I got an assortment. Dylan came down the stairs, sizing Catherine up with the intensity of a teenager protecting his father. She met his gaze directly. Dylan, she said, extending her hand. I've heard a lot about you. Your dad says you're the smart one. He talks about me. Dylan asked, shaking her hand. Constantly. About how you've been holding the family together. How you're mature beyond your years. How proud he is of you. Catherine smiled. Those are hard shoes to fill, but it sounds like you're managing. Dylan's defensive posture softened slightly. Thanks. Sophie bounded into the room, all energy and curiosity. Hi, I'm Sophie. Are you Dad's friend? I am, Catherine said, crouching down to Sophie's level. My name is Catherine. I brought cookies. Want to help me set them out? Yes. Sophie grabbed Catherine's hand and dragged her toward the kitchen. Dylan watched them go, then turned to me. She's not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. Someone more calculated. She seems genuine. She is. We had dinner together. Pasta, salad, nothing fancy. Catherine asked Sophie about school, listened to her talk about her friends and her art projects. She asked Dylan about his college plans, his interest in computer science. She was present, engaged, real. After Sophie went to bed, Dylan excused himself to do homework. Catherine and I sat in the living room, wine glasses in hand. Your kids are wonderful, she said. Dylan's protective of you. Sophie's full of light. You've done a good job with them. Thanks. They're navigating this better than I expected, though I know it's hard on them. Catherine set down her glass. Garrett, I need to tell you something. Trevor's lawyer contacted mine today. He wants to fast-track the divorce. He's offering me a settlement. $60 million, the house in the Hamptons, full custody of our daughter when she's not at school. All I have to do is sign an NDA about his affairs and agree not to cooperate with any investigations into company finances. That's a lot of money. It's hush money. He's trying to protect himself from criminal charges and public humiliation. She looked at me. I'm not taking it. Why not? Because $60 million doesn't give me back the 21 years I spent being invisible. It doesn't undo the humiliation or the loneliness or the sense that I gave up everything I love for a man who never valued me. Catherine's voice was firm. I want justice, Garrett. Real justice. I want Trevor to face consequences. And I want Tessa to understand that destroying families has a cost. I reached over and took her hand. Then let's make sure they both pay it. The literary gala was one of those events where New York's publishing elite gathered to celebrate themselves. Ashford House was hosting, launching 3 major books simultaneously. Trevor would be there. Tessa would be there. And Catherine had 2 invitations. Are you sure about this? I asked Catherine as we stood outside the venue, a converted warehouse in Soho with industrial lighting and exposed brick. She looked stunning in a red dress that Trevor had always hated, had told her was too bold, too attention-seeking. Tonight, she wore it like armor. I'm sure, Catherine said, taking my arm. Trevor needs to see that I'm not hiding, that I'm not ashamed, that I've moved on. Inside, the party was already in full swing. Writers, agents, editors, all mingling with champagne glasses and calculated conversation. I spotted Tessa across the room, standing next to Trevor, wearing the emerald dress she knew made her eyes look striking. She saw me at the same moment I saw her. Her face went white. Trevor followed her gaze. When he saw Catherine on my arm, his expression shifted from surprise to fury. He started walking toward us, Tessa trailing behind. Catherine, Trevor said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. What are you doing here? Attending a literary event, Catherine said smoothly. I was invited. You remember Garrett Chambers, don't you? Award-winning novelist. I've been consulting with him on a project. Trevor's eyes narrowed. He looked at me like he was trying to place me. Chambers. That name sounds familiar. It should, I said. My wife works for you. Tessa Chambers. Senior editor. The recognition hit Trevor's face. Then the calculation. He looked between Catherine and me, putting the pieces together. You too. Trevor started. Our friends, Catherine finished. We met in an art gallery. Discovered we had common interests. Shared experiences. She smiled sweetly. Garrett's been teaching me about the publishing world. I'm thinking of getting back into curation. Perhaps opening my own gallery. Tessa stepped forward, her voice low and urgent. Garrett, can we talk privately? I don't think we have anything to discuss that Catherine and Trevor can't hear. I said. Please, Tessa said, and I heard desperation in her voice. Fine. 5 minutes. I turned to Catherine. I'll be right back. Tessa led me to a quiet corner. What are you doing? With her. Having a conversation. Building a friendship. What does it look like? It looks like you're trying to get revenge by cozying up to Trevor's wife. Revenge. I laughed. Tessa, I don't need revenge. You and Trevor are destroying yourselves just fine without my help. I'm just making sure I have a front row seat. The board suspended Trevor today. They're investigating his finances. Catherine's father is leading the charge. I know. Catherine told me. Tessa's face flushed. You're working together, coordinating against us. We're supporting each other through our divorces. There's a difference. I lean closer. But here's what you need to understand. You don't get to blow up my life, steal from our family, lie to our children, and then dictate who I spend time with. I'm done being the accommodating husband. This is who I am now. Garrett, please. Save it. I need to get back to Catherine. We have a party to enjoy. I walked away, leaving Tessa standing there looking lost. When I reached Catherine, she was talking to an art dealer, discussing a potential exhibition space. She looked alive, engaged, nothing like the invisible wife she'd been. Trevor approached us again, this time alone. His face was red, his hands clenched at his sides. Stay away from my wife, he said to me, his voice low and threatening. Your wife. Catherine interjected. Trevor, we're getting divorced. Or did you forget that part when you were too busy sleeping with your employees? Catherine, this isn't the place. No, it's the perfect place. All your colleagues, your business partners, watching you realize that you've lost control. She stepped closer to him. I know about the embezzlement, Trevor. I know about all of it. And soon, everyone else will too. Trevor's face went from red to pale. You're bluffing. Am I? Catherine turned to me, smiling. Garrett, didn't you say you want to get some air? This party's getting a bit stifling. Absolutely, I said, offering her my arm. As we walked toward the exit, I leaned close to Catherine and whispered, Your wife is remarkable, Trevor. Absolutely remarkable. I felt Trevor's eyes boring into my back as we left. Could sense his rage from across the room. Catherine squeezed my arm. That felt good, she said. It looked good too. Outside, Catherine turned to me, her eyes bright. Thank you for coming tonight. For standing with me. Thank you for inviting me. For letting me be part of your revolution. She kissed my cheek. This is just the beginning, Garrett. Wait until they see what comes next. Trevor Ashford's fall happened faster than anyone expected. 3 weeks after the literary gala, the board of Ashford House voted unanimously to remove him as publisher. The financial audit revealed systematic misuse of company funds totaling over $400,000 spanning 5 years. Criminal charges were filed. Catherine called me the day the news broke. It's over, she said. Trevor's out. The company's installing an interim publisher while they search for permanent replacement. How do you feel? Vindicated. Exhausted. Free. She paused. Garrett, there's more. Tessa was fired this morning. The board reviewed her promotion and determined it violated company policy. They're revoking her stock options and demanding she return the bonus she received. I thought about Tessa, about the woman who'd traded our marriage for power and status, now losing both. I should feel something. Satisfaction, maybe, but I just feel empty. That's because you're a good person. You don't take pleasure in others' pain, even when they deserve it. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks later. I got primary custody of Dylan and Sophie. Tessa got alternating weekends. The hidden money was returned, plus penalties. The house would be sold, proceeds split evenly. My royalties remain mine. Her stock options, now worthless, were hers. Dylan took the news calmly. Sophie cried, but recovered quickly. Kids are resilient in ways adults forget. Catherine's divorce moved slower. Trevor contested everything, hired expensive lawyers, tried to drag it out. But the evidence was overwhelming. The affairs, the embezzlement, the systematic deception. In the end, he settled. Catherine got $80 million, the Hamptons house, and full custody of their daughter. What will you do now? I asked her over dinner at her place, 3 months after Trevor's firing. I'm opening a gallery, Catherine said, her eyes bright. Contemporary art, emerging artists. I've already found a space in Chelsea. I start renovations next month. That's incredible. What about you? Any new projects? I'm writing again. Actually writing, not just going through the motions. A novel about second chances and finding yourself after everything falls apart. Catherine smiled. Art imitating life? Something like that. She reached across the table and took my hand. Garrett, I want to be clear about something. I care about you. These past months, you've been more than a partner in revenge. You've been a friend, someone who sees me. I care about you too, Catherine, more than I expected to. But we're both still healing, still figuring out who we are outside of our marriages. I don't want to rush into something and mess it up. I agree completely. So let's take our time. Build something real instead of something reactionary. I'd like that. 6 months later, Catherine's gallery opened to critical acclaim. I was there, along with Dylan and Sophie. We stood in front of a painting, a landscape of storm clouds breaking over water, and Catherine explained the artist's vision. Sophie tugged my sleeve. Dad, is Catherine your girlfriend? I looked at Catherine, who was smiling. She's someone very important to me. Is that okay with you? Sophie nodded. I like her. She's nice. And she makes you smile. Dylan rolled his eyes but grinned. Just don't get weird about it, Dad. That night, as I drove home with my kids, I thought about Tessa. She'd taken a job at a smaller publishing house, struggling to rebuild her reputation. Trevor was facing trial for embezzlement. Both of them had gotten exactly what they'd earned. But I wasn't thinking about them anymore. I was thinking about Catherine, about the life we were building slowly, carefully, about Dylan and Sophie, resilient and strong, about the novel I was writing, the best work I'd ever done. Tessa had wanted me to feel small. Instead, I'd learned to take up space. She'd wanted me to break. Instead, I'd rebuilt myself into something stronger. That was the real victory. 1 year after Tessa asked for a divorce, I stood in Catherine's gallery at the opening of her second major exhibition. The space was crowded with collectors, critics, and art enthusiasts. Catherine moved through the room with confidence, explaining pieces, introducing artists, being exactly who she was meant to be. Dylan was talking to one of the artists, asking intelligent questions about technique. At 16, he developed an interest in digital art, was applying to colleges with strong computer graphics programs. He'd forgiven Tessa, eventually, but he lived with me full-time now. His choice, Sophie, now 9, was sketching in a corner, capturing the gallery scene in her notebook. She'd started art classes, discovered she had talent. She still saw Tessa on weekends, but the relationship was different now. Cautious, rebuild on new terms. Catherine found me by the window. What are you thinking about? How far we've come. A year ago, we were both trapped in marriages that were killing us slowly. Now look at us. You published a novel that got starred reviews. I have a successful gallery. Our kids are thriving. She smiled. We did pretty well for two people who were supposedly too damaged to start over. What happened to Trevor? I asked. I hadn't followed the news in months. Convicted on 3 counts of embezzlement. Sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. He starts next month. Catherine's voice was matter of fact. Tessa testified against him, trying to distance herself from the whole thing. Did it work? Not really. Her reputation in publishing is ruined. Last I heard, she was working as a freelance editor, barely making ends meet. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I just felt tired. I don't want to talk about them anymore. They're not part of our story. No, they're not. Catherine took my hand. Garrett, I want to ask you something. My daughter is coming home from boarding school for the summer. I'd like her to meet you. Officially. As someone important in my life. I'd like that. Dylan and Sophie could meet her too. Maybe we could all have dinner together. A blended family dinner. That's terrifying. Everything worth doing is terrifying. Catherine laughed. When did you become so wise? Around the time I stopped letting other people define my worth. As the evening wound down, Catherine and I stood on the gallery steps, watching people leave. The night was warm, the city alive around us. Thank you, Catherine said. For what? For seeing me when I was invisible. For standing with me when I decided to fight back. For being patient while I figured out who I was again. Thank you for the same things. She kissed me, soft and real. Not desperate or reactionary. Just honest. I love you, Garrett Chambers. I'm not sure when it happened, but I do. I love you too, Catherine Ashford. We stood there, two people who'd been destroyed and rebuilt themselves. Who'd found each other in the wreckage and built something beautiful from the broken pieces. Dylan and Sophie came out of the gallery, ready to go home. Catherine's assistant was locking up behind them. Ready? I asked my kids. Yeah, Dylan said. But can Catherine come to dinner tomorrow? I want to show her the animation project I've been working on. I'd love to, Catherine said. As we walked to our cars, Sophie slipped her hand into Catherine's. Will you teach me about art? Like you teach other people. Absolutely. We'll start this weekend if you want. I watched them together, my daughter and this woman I loved, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete peace. Tessa had destroyed our marriage, trying to find herself in someone else's power. But I'd found myself in the aftermath. Found strength, purpose, love. The best revenge wasn't destroying her. It was building something better than what we'd had. And I had.